Hello and welcome to Westbridge Model Railway, and this which I'm calling my autumn update. Yes, hasn't been anything from the layout for a good 2 or 3 months now, but we'll talk about that shortly. But I thought what we'd do is bring you up to date with things that have been happening, a few changes on the layout, some stock arrivals, and the main thing I want to talk about is my plans for scenery. As obviously there hasn't been much scenic wise going on the layout if you've been following my progress over the videos over the last 18 months or more now. So yes, you are actually standing in the doorway to the model railway room. So that's giving you a slightly different perspective to the one you normally see me from. Hopefully it gives you an idea of the actual layout itself, roughly the size of the room. So there is quite a lot in a small space. But what I'll do now is run you through each of the sections of the layout, where we are and what's coming up. So I'll give you a quick spin round aloud if you like. So now on the left hand side of the shot, that's going to be the basic countryside section of the layout with the slight bend in there, and there'll be a water section in there, and then obviously the temporary at the moment just to give me an idea of size, tunnel at the far end. And then as we start to come round, at the back there's the junction that we saw in the last video what we did. And then we come round, you can see the centre of the room there where I operate from. At the back there in front of the curtains, that's the station area, depot, and what will be the town in the background. Obviously in the lower foreground there you can see the fiddly yard. As we come around near the light, that's where normally I'd be filming from, that tripod there. So where the light is, that's going to be where the heritage depot is and the turntable. And then we come round, that brings us to the heritage line down here. So now let's take a look at each thing a bit closer. So that's the dead end of our heritage line, which will probably be made to look as it used to continue on, but was truncated when the line was closed. So just 2 or 3 sidings we have there. Obviously all this will need ballasting and detailing. We have the station area, which I need to find a low relief platform building for, and then we want some fencing on the back there. Obviously all the detailing associated that you would have with a station area. And then that takes us out. That's where there'll be a scenic break here, where that bridge temporarily is at the minute, which the idea is will separate us from where the turntable and heritage depot is. That's supposed to be on the other part of the line, so there'll be some sort of embankment, maybe roadway going across there. That's the track that takes us round past the turntable, where there'll be a number of sidings coming off there. And then that takes us round into the station area itself. Now, one thing that's been mentioned by a couple of people is the rather risky drop off here on the edge of the heritage line. So yes, I had been considering what to do with that, and what I've decided to do is take some more of this sundealer board and screw it along the length here basically, so it forms not only an edge, but it's going to be another platform. So essentially a low relief platform, which will obviously stop anything falling off there, and also gives me a little bit more flexibility with running trains as opposed to just a run-round loop without a platform. It now will have a platform, so like for instance the train that you can see in there at the minute, that could be waiting in there to depart, and then a train could arrive from the main heritage station onto the branch line into the far platform, and of course this one could leave. So that gives me a bit more flexibility there, and will stop anything falling off onto the floor. And I'll also apply something a little bit similar to the edge here of where the fiddle yard is, although obviously it won't be a platform, so I'll just need to put a bit of, I'm thinking of just a bit of perspex edging along the side there, just enough to stop the lower part of the train so it can't come off the track. Not going to be full height or anything, but yeah, I'll just screw something along there and that will stop anything falling off on that side. So that's the heritage line there arriving into the main station. The town in the background there. You you can see the heritage platform there with the DMU and the 50 in it, and then you've got the run round loop behind it as well with some various locos stabled there. And then the idea is that platform is partly shared with the main line as well, so there will be DMUs coming in there, terminating and running back. So what I've got for the platform there, it will be slightly different than what I'm putting in. So you'll have a more modern platform on the main part of the station and something a little bit more heritage where the break is for the heritage line. And then in the background there is the temporary town area at the moment. I've acquired a few cars, buses, lorries, etc. because I need to get spacings for where the actual road's going to be and bridges and things. Just a little mixture in there. And then we'll come through the station there. This is where some of the changes occurred in the last video, just making the platforms a bit longer. That sweeps us around the curve out of the station. We've got some sidings there and carriage shed for the heritage line. And then there'll be essentially another scenic break there. It's an old temporary bridge there doing the job for now, just to give you the idea. But I shall scratch build a new, at least to be a dual carriageway, I think, going across that part there. Now the town itself is going to be quite a big build. You can't see very well at the moment, but that is the windows behind it that look out into the back garden. So my plan here is to build the town in 3 sections, because I have a window that you can open on that side and a window that you can open on this right hand side. And obviously during the summer months it can get quite warm in here, so it's nice to have those open, and also it'd be nice to have them open, or useful to have them open, if I'm doing any spraying in here with the airbrush, which in theory I will be doing when it comes to doing track detailing and various other bits. Although as much as possible, anything that I can do I will either do outside in the garden, possibly in the garage, or even in the conservatory. I'm having a little setup in there, hopefully. But yes, the idea is to build it into 3 separate sections so that I can actually build it and detail it much better than I can do by leaning over, obviously, all the track and everything in front of me. So there would be one section in front of the left window, one section in front of the right window, and then a central section, which hopefully will all join up seamlessly. And what I'm thinking for doing for that is basically having some quite thin ply to form the road area, if you like, or the deck area, and then something like probably some Corex or something a bit thicker on the background, which then my back scene will go on. And then, okay, I'll mark everything out, draw out a road plan and where the various buildings and things are going to go, lay it all in there as though it's one piece so I can see where the various joins are, but then actually take it away and build it up and detail it all as 3 separate pieces, and then they can just sit down all together and they will form one town scene. Obviously there will be slight joins at 2 points, especially when it comes to the back scene, but the back scene isn't long enough to do it all in one anyway, so I'll just have to be as creative as I can, hopefully try and disguise it with some buildings or something, but yeah, there will be a couple of joins at some point. So that's the main junction area, which we covered in the last video. Basically that allows access from pretty much all the lines there, up, down and bi-directional line, and also the yard. So that's going to be, basically just needs to be made, so the scenery there, so there'll be an embankment in the background. That signal box probably won't be there at the minute, and I'll probably have a different continuous back scene as opposed to that one where there's 2 different ones at the moment. In the foreground there's the Cato track, which I still use for running DC locos. I do have a lot of DC locos from my previous layout, and some of the locos I've purchased have still been DC locos but are DCC ready, which I've been shipping, but they need testing first. So there's just an oval there that keeps those locos going. The big gap where that is at the moment and a bit in between the Class 66 and the Cato track, I'm not decided on yet. There might just be a couple of engineers' sidings or something's in there, a factory unit, but it'll be more scenic than track basically. And then that takes us round to where the tunnel will be. So there's a very temporary tunnel section there, just to give me an idea on height and shape of the tunnel when I come to do the actual proper one itself. The idea is, as I mentioned before, to make it look as though the two tracks that are coming in and out of the tunnels don't actually go the same way, so that the line on the right will almost go straight on and the line to the left goes straight on as well. So I shall just need to make something, a bit of a divide, if you like, on the tunnel itself down the middle, so that it doesn't look like it's just a one tunnel hiding the corner there so much. I've got planned for a castle to go on top of one of the sides, and then again we'll just need to scenic and landscape that. And then there'll be some sort of bridge coming across in the middle, which will slightly hide the curve there that takes you into the engineer's yard. So the engineer's yard is basically staying as it is. Essentially you've got 3 roads there capable of holding quite decent lengths of wagons, and then there's a siding and a couple of sidings up the far end, which at the minute have a little shed against it, which might just be a dead end siding going into a scenic break there as opposed to the shed. And then I've just got a fueling point down here for any locos, and that turnout there would be the one that comes around the corner and takes us into whatever I decide to have on those couple of sidings I just mentioned. And then the main line in the background, because of the changes I made to the junction, we don't really need that turnout there anymore, taking us off the line onto the bidirectional line. So that point is going to come out, which will give us a nice bit of plain line there. So essentially you'll just have the 2 sweeping tracks that will be coming by the water feature there, the lake or canal. Not entirely sure what's going there yet. So I think that'll make that look a lot neater and separate it from the bidirectional freight line. And then that will change a bit as well. So where the 66 is standing on the freight line there, that will essentially just be a bidirectional freight line. The line that runs behind it will take a wider sweep and join in at that point up at the far end, just before it dives in the tunnel. And then that takes us into the lower fiddle yard, if you like, and the backside of the station. So again, a temporary tunnel there, just to give me an idea on size and height, roughly how that's going to fit in there. There will be, again, a scenic break taking you away from looking at a fiddle yard is the idea. So it just becomes its own section there. One change that is going to happen, in the foreground we've got this very tight curve taking us into the extra sidings that I put in for freight trains, which has worked okay, but you have to go through or just past the engineering yard, which is not ideal. So what I'm going to do is take a turnout off just there, and then that will give us a much straighter line into there, and also direct access for the freight trains to come in and out the bidirectional freight line there. So that will flow much better. And also, which you won't see because it'll be underneath the tunnel there, I'm going to take a turnout from what is the up main line nearest to us over to the down main line on the far side. So that's going to be in a tunnel, so that will need point motors, I think. And what that means is anything that's running in the up direction could then cross over into any of the 3 down loops and then just come back and change direction, as opposed to having to go into the station and terminate there. I was maybe getting a little bit ahead of myself and maybe too advanced, but I had even considered the possibility this is definitely future down the line, not anytime soon, but of putting a helix in, because I could take a helix from under the layout and have a fiddle yard or sidings or something under there, and then you could bring the helix out up here, join onto the main line there, and obviously that would give me a lot more storage space. It's just something to think about. At the moment, I'm happy with how it is. Everything's running fine. The fiddle yard, obviously, although it doesn't hold anywhere near the amount of stock I've got, you can see it does hold quite a bit anyway. So for now, as I say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And just really leaves the depot area here. So again, the bridge there will be the scenic break for the fiddle yard. I will probably have a backdrop behind it just to separate it, so when you're looking at it from this way, there'll be sort of a sky backdrop to it, as opposed to being able to see all the sidings and drains. And then the depot itself is, I think pretty much that's how it's going to stay in that configuration there, but I will be looking at putting some actual proper pits into the depot. I want to get some lighting in there, but layout siding wise, with the fueling point and everything, I think that's fine. We've got the stabling alongside the station where there's a mixture of locos at the moment, you can see, and then obviously we've got the bi-directional freight line loops where the car train and the oil tankers are at the moment. And then you come round and there'll be the carriage wash at the very end there. And then just in the foreground is a siding which just takes us, I've got the scrap train there in the moment. Can't put anything too long in there because that brings you around into what is the programming track here anyway, so it can't be too long. And then again in the foreground is the Cato track for testing DC logos. So that's just my little work area there that I've got, where you will have seen me do some of the chipping video earlier. So yeah, just a little desk, something to work out. Not that big, but obviously N-gauge isn't that big itself, so it does the job. I've got the control over on that side for the Cato track. And then as we come round, that at the minute is where I have my NC power cab and the CC Concepts Aegis system, just sitting on some boxes temporarily at the moment. And the idea is they will be mounted into the fascia there on the side, and then that will be nicely stowed away and everything will be controlled from there. But having the hands-free system with it as well, obviously I can move around the layout as I want anyway. It doesn't have to be actually controlled from there, although the cable does reach pretty much all parts of the layout, and even if you go underneath, it takes you around to the heritage line as well. So that's covered that. So hopefully that's given you a general overview of the size of the room and how the layout fits in it generally. And you've seen the various sections and the plans I've got for each of those there. Of course, if you've got any suggestions or ideas on how I might do some of those things, whether it be the town area, whether I'm going the right way about that, we're doing it in the 3 sections. Things like the tunnel area, the water where I'm having the lake and or canal in there. Any suggestions you've got, of course, just pop them in the comments down below. They are most welcome. And then hopefully, as we progress more into 2026, you will see more of a change on the scenery front. There are only a couple of areas now sort of track-wise to do, which are the changes I briefly mentioned to the where the main lines run there and the bi-directional freight line. It's going to sort of rationalise them down a bit, take the point out and sort of have them separated, so that should look nicer. And then behind the camera where you are now, where we looked, obviously the turntable and that heritage depot and yard area is the biggest thing to do. Especially doing the turntable is going to be interesting with the wiring on that, which I need to look up. But yes, hopefully there will be progress as we go into 2026 and you will see a lot more scenery building up, so it won't be just bare track. And of course there will be a lot of ballasting to do as well. Yeah, Look forward to that. I'm not sure whether any of you have noticed yet, but you're enjoying me and the layout in 4K now. Yes, I'm still using the same camera actually. You're watching me on a DJI Pocket 3, but I've switched over to 4K now, as I'm also doing for all my mainline footage going forwards with a new camera. And I've also, as a result of that, had to learn a new editing system, of which I've gone for DaVinci Resolve, for those of you who know that. Very early days, so at the minute I'm just doing the basic editing with it, but obviously for those of you that know it, it does a huge amount more. Apparently people use it for even making things on Netflix, so yes, there's a lot of effects and features to learn, so hopefully I can make upcoming videos a little bit more interesting for you. Now, are you subscribed to my channel? Or do you think you're subscribed to my channel, maybe I should say? A couple of people have messaged and saying, oh, I thought I was subscribed to your channel, but I don't appear to be anymore. And I've heard that from a few other people on YouTube as well. So if you are subscribed or think you're subscribed, just worth checking out and make sure you are, and you're still getting all the updates from me. If you click the bell notification as well, you'll get email updates every time I upload something to the channel. If you haven't subscribed, you will find the subscribe button down there. So just click that, please. It doesn't cost you anything. And you'll get all the updates from the layout as it progresses, and all my various trips out on the real railway as well. And then if you like heritage stuff, there's plenty from heritage lines on there. And I've even got footage on there going back to the 1980s and 1990s from various locations all around the country, if you want to check that out. And now that I've gone 4K, I'm hoping at some point to try and upscale some of those movies into 4K, or at least 1080p HD, which should make them much more enjoyable to watch. So look out for that coming in the future. So what's been going on the traction and rolling stock front during the last 2 or 3 months since the last upload? Well, I haven't gone crazy and spent loads of money on locos or stock at all, but I have acquired a Sir Nigel Gresley, which I wanted for a while, as it is a mainline certificated steam loco, so that obviously can run out on the mainline as well as on the heritage line, so that was ideal. Finally found, for a decent price, Network Southeast 47.7. That is a DC one, so I only need to chip that to DCC. That will be ideal. That will fit in obviously during the earlier period of the layout with a Network Southeast stock. But it also did carry on a bit longer in heritage form as well, so it can drop onto the heritage line as well without looking amiss. Finally managed to find the 5th auto baluster without having to pay a ridiculous price, because all the ones I'd seen were coming in about between 80 and 100 pounds, where the first ones I picked up were about 45 to 50. So I didn't buy any of those. I've just waited until one came along. One came along for a similar price. I've snapped that up, and I now have the requisite rake of 5. Because the auto balusters always, quote always, this is an example, but pretty much always running rakes of 5. So you get the 5, 10, 15, 20, etc. I've just got the 5 for now. So I've got the 1 generator unit and then the 4 other ones. We also had from Revolution Trains the curtain-sided steel wagons. I've had 3 of those arrive, and 2 rakes of the blue cube car carrying wagons that used to run out of sort of Morris Cowley down to Southampton. You can still see them about now. They've been running for quite a few years. Those, however, had a bit of a problem with those on unboxing and putting them on the track when it came to running, but we'll cover that in a separate video when I look at some of the wagons in more detail, what I've got on the layout and what I plan to do weathering wise and changing a few liveries. So yes, that will come in a separate video. But for now, I think it's best if we have a bit of a running session and you can see some of those locomotives and stock in action. But hopefully you enjoyed that brief running session there and a look at some of the new additions to the layout. As we're now trickling into December, the chances are there won't be another full video from here this year, but I shall probably try and just get one of my marathon running sessions done for Christmas and New Year upload, and then hopefully we'll get a bit more regular with the videos from the layout and the various projects as we progress into 2026. Right, I think that probably wraps it up for this video. Nothing major to show you in this one as such. Hope you enjoyed the layout tour and have seen my plans and can visualise the way things are going to go. As I said, there'll be more separate videos coming up, so I shall do one on the track changes I mentioned over there on the main line, the bi-directional line, and the different layout where we're going into the yard there. We'll take a closer look at the wagon fleet, and in particular those blue cube wagons, which have been a bit of a problem, and have had to go and sort those out. And then there's things like the whole station area and build I talked about. There'll be lots of separate videos covering that. But for now, I'll just say thank you very much for watching. And remember, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down there. Please give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.